Welcome to the most ironically titled So Lately I've Been Watching. Not only is this a show that I actually saw at the beginning of last year, back in February, but it's one that goes back to my teenage years and I've watched countless times. But seeing that I'm already running quite far behind, I may as well go back that far. So in 2002 to 2004, the world felt like a very different place, especially where my tastes as a teenager were concerned. You had nu metal, you had pop punk was very big still. Viewer skew films about life in New Jersey. Reality TV was starting to take off. There was a renaissance in the world of video games and anime, but also the death of the mecha genre. And goths and punks were still very much goths and punks before the arrival of emo. Out of all of this came one of the greatest cartoons ever made, Megas XLR. Megas XLR was a show that sort of parodied all of that other stuff and paid homage to it at the same time. So the story opens on this dire future battle to save Earth from an alien invasion, when a supreme mech is sent back hundreds of years by mistake and ends up being found by two slackers underneath a pile of junk in the early 2000s.
$2. I doubt that whole pile is worth more than $2.
What's that?
No idea.
$2, huh? I'll take it.
Oh, man.
The story then follows Coop, this morbidly obese video games master and car enthusiast, his anemic looking and romantically challenged best friend Jamie, and this excellent space captain, perfect soldier from the future called Kiva, as they battle this destructive alien race which has now come back to their time, in between, you know, the really important stuff like waiting in line at the DMV, dating, attending food eating contests, and trying to hand in a rented video before getting fined. Blending together a really accessible humour with memorable characters and a fun soundtrack is what makes this show great. My one big issue with this show is that despite being part of Cartoon Network's own renaissance at the turn of the century, the one that included the likes of Ed, Edd n Eddy, Powerpuff Girls, Dexter's Laboratory, Grim Adventures of Billy and Mandy, Courage the Cowardly Dog, Samurai Jack, among others. Megas XLR is a show that really got swept under the rug. I suppose that the target audience being that bit older had something to do with it. Here in the UK, it very rarely aired during daylight hours, much less primetime. And yet, I was happy to watch the show with my little sisters or my daughter when they were about 10 or 11 years old. Unlike other cartoons that were aimed at teenagers, like Daria, Beavis and Butthead, 16, Total Drama, Megas XLR manages to be really funny without having to rely on more mature themes in its humour. Which brings me to the show's humour. The visual gags, offbeat dialogue, character designs, and the use of silence and music in just the right places are what make this show really funny. Yes, there are some dated references to Power Rangers, Sailor Moon and Gundam. And sometimes the show feels like it draws a lot of influence from Kevin Smith films like Clerks and Mallrats.
There's always Hoboken. Yeah, but that's Hoboken.
But the fact that my daughter loved it, and I never find it feeling archaic even now, I think says a lot. Offbeat and surprising really is the best way to describe this show. Many of the characters, both main and supporting, are equally hapless and brilliant at everything. Plots are written in a way where anything's on the table and really disparate story elements can be thrown together and not even feel questionable. Only in Megas could you see an episode with an immortal spider-like being that consumes everything and be wondering, are the characters ever going to get their slushie? There are inexplicable moments in the storyboarding, I guess, where characters can just be seen sitting down in a car that you know is about a skyscraper's height off the ground.
Hey, he tried.
The timing of everything in this show, however, is particularly noteworthy. I genuinely think that half of the show's humour comes from knowing exactly when to drop a line or how fast or how slow to animate something to make it really funny. In fact, I would say that Megas XLR is a masterclass in comedic timing and animation. And of course, while we're talking about direction, we should talk about the voice direction and voice acting delivery. It's amazing. It's also really fun to see Steve Blum and Wendy Lee, who play Spike Spiegel and Faye Valentine, interact and play off each other in a way that they never would have been able to in Cowboy Bebop.
I can't hold on. I'm not as strong as I look.
Jamie, if you drop me, you'll never find the planet of the space Amazons.
I still can't do it.
Next, I suppose I should mention the music. There's nothing particularly amazing about the music. It's dumb, it's kind of fun, and yet it's perfect. It's essentially a blend of the pop punk and nu metal and anime tropes and cheesy film scores, sort of hewn together in a way that really sets the scene both for the setting and the characters. Half the time it sets the scene perfectly. The other half the time it really subverts expectations. And when it's used as a gag, again, the timing is impeccable. There's nothing too much else to say about the soundtrack other than that. However, I can't picture any other show that can get away with that title track. Mega's XLR is genuinely one of my favourite cartoons, second only to Avatar, and everyone's been talking about that for the past couple of years since it first aired on Netflix. It gets barely any recognition, but when I do see it mentioned, it's usually in a very positive light. Like with Detectivists, the show did sort of wrap up kind of neatly in a way where it made sense, but I could easily go for another series. Oh, speaking of Detectivists, I have actually seen some rumours flying around on the internet that the two main actors are up for doing another series, but it wouldn't be shot till next year. But back to Megas. So I looked into this while researching for this video, and it does seem that there was a campaign in 2012 to bring back the show, and despite interest from co-creator George Kurstic and director Chris Prunoski, this never got off the ground due to legal difficulties with Cartoon Network, who had written the show off as a tax loss. This is an example where the business behind media can really run a good thing into the ground. Cartoon Network never really promoted this show. I never saw any adverts for it, and it was always aired at odd times of the night. The only reason I discovered it in the first place was because back then I was watching a lot of horror films, and I'd always have to watch cartoons afterwards to settle my nerves before I could sleep. So it looks like Cartoon Network wrote the show off as a tax loss, and now none of its content can be remade or done anything with without breaking some kind of law. Because of this, I have zero qualms whatsoever in saying that you can actually find all of the episodes right here on YouTube. Most of them are in a single playlist, actually, apart from the last two episodes, but they can be found in full elsewhere on YouTube. If you're looking for something fun, offbeat, and a masterclass in comedic timing, then I really seriously recommend this show. If you made it all the way here, thank you for listening to me ramble on. Please feel free to like the video and comment below what your favourite episode is and what you thought of the show generally. And subscribe for more stuff like this, as well as retro gaming content and occasionally some music stuff. And with that, see ya.